Stephanie White had seen enough. The Indiana Fever head coach stormed the sideline, boiling with frustration at the officiating in Game 1 against the Atlanta Dream. Her anger wasn't hard to understand. Back-to-back possessions left Aaliyah Boston saddled with questionable fouls, and when Stephanie finally spoke her mind, she earned a technical foul for saying exactly what every Fever fan was already thinking. The reality was brutal. Indiana not only entered the playoffs missing 6 players, but also found themselves fighting whistles that tilted the floor in the Dream's favor. For a team already pieced together with tape, grit, and sheer determination, it felt less like bad luck and more like sabotage. The injury list was absurd. Caitlin Clark's groin injury had ended her season early. Chloe Bibby was sidelined with a knee problem. Sophie Cunningham and Sydney Colson were also lost to knee issues. Ari McDonald was shut down with a foot injury, and less than 24 hours before tip-off, Damiris Dantas was ruled out with a concussion. 6 rotation players gone. Still, Indiana had no choice but to step on the floor against a fully loaded Atlanta squad. The situation was so extreme that the Fever decided everyone would travel, injured or not. All 16 players showed up, filling the bench to the point that reserves in street clothes had to sit in a second row, like passengers waiting for boarding on a flight. It was a powerful display of unity, but also a reminder of just how much this team had endured. Despite everything, the Fever came out swinging. Kelsey Mitchell knocked down early shots, Aaliyah Boston owned the glass, and Indiana jumped out to a 15-6 start. For a brief moment, the impossible looked possible, a broken roster threatening to topple a healthy contender. But that's when the officiating began to drain the momentum. Ryan Howard stumbled into contact, and suddenly it was a foul on Indiana. Lexi Hull got whistled for clean defense, forcing White to burn her challenges in the first quarter, both of which she won, proving the refs had clearly missed calls. Yet, with no more challenges left, the Fever were stuck. Every clean contest risked being blown dead, while Atlanta's physicality, elbows, shoves, and hard screens, was largely ignored. The imbalance was maddening. Boston took an elbow to the face without a whistle. Hull was shoved out of bounds, nothing called. Meanwhile, minor hip contact from Kelsey Mitchell turned into free throws for the Dream. By the fourth quarter, frustration finally boiled over. White barked at officials after Ryan Howard tugged on Shea Petty without a call, and the referees slapped her with a technical foul. It summed up the night perfectly. A Fever team that fought through injuries, clawed its way into the postseason for a second straight year, and still had to battle not just their opponent but also the referees. As Sophie Cunningham joked from the sideline, stuck rehabbing her knee, "I'm basically part of the medical staff now." It was humor masking the harsh truth. Indiana's season had been defined by resilience, by finding ways to compete even when half their roster was unavailable. And in Game 1, they proved again that heart and fight can level the playing field, until the whistles tipped it back the other way. This is the Basketball Unplugged, and we want to know, do you think the Fever were robbed by the refs? Let us know in the comments below. If Part 1 showed the chaos inside the game, Part 2 is about the storm that followed. The whistles from Game 1 didn't just frustrate Stephanie White and the Indiana Fever players, they lit up the entire WNBA community. Fans flooded social media with clips of phantom fouls, screenshots of blown calls, and side-by-side comparisons showing Atlanta's physicality going unchecked while Indiana was whistled for far less. Robbery became the word of the night, and the noise only grew louder as replays confirmed what so many viewers already felt in real time. Inside the Fever locker room, the mood was raw. Players had already endured the grind of a season defined by injuries, constantly reshuffling lineups and playing shorthanded. To put everything on the line in the postseason, only to feel like the game was taken out of their hands, hit differently. Aaliyah Boston, who had to fight through double teams and elbows in the paint, spoke about staying locked in but couldn't hide her frustration at the inconsistency. Lexi Hull, tagged with phantom fouls all night, simply shook her head when asked about the physicality, muttering, "It's the playoffs. Let us play." The bigger question isn't just about one game. It's about whether officiating can keep pace with the stakes of the postseason. Every whistle carries more weight in the playoffs, and when calls repeatedly swing against one side, the credibility of the league itself gets dragged into the conversation. Even neutrals admitted the Fever had a case, with some analysts saying the officiating overshadowed what should have been a showcase matchup between two rising franchises. And then there's the emotional impact. Think about this. Indiana had to fly in 6 injured players just to have their presence felt on the bench. That kind of unity is rare, and it should have been the story. A team so bonded they refused to let setbacks fracture them. Instead, the spotlight was stolen by referees who became the deciding factor. So where does Indiana go from here? The Fever have proven they're too tough to fold. They've survived injuries, lineup chaos, and now even questionable officiating. Part 2 of their story is about resilience, because no matter how tilted the floor feels, they keep finding ways to stand tall. This is the Basketball Unplugged, and the debate continues. Was this just bad luck, or was Indiana truly robbed of their shot in Game 1? Drop your thoughts below because the conversation isn't slowing down anytime soon. What happened in Game 1 wasn't just about missed calls or even the unlucky timing of injuries. It was a spotlight on the identity of the Indiana Fever, a team that refuses to fold. A group stitched together by grit, stubbornness, and the belief that they belong on the biggest stage. Think about it. 2 years ago, the Fever were seen as a rebuilding project. Fast forward to today, and despite losing half their roster, they're making back-to-back playoff runs. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens because Stephanie White has set a culture where excuses don't exist. Whether it's Caitlin Clark cheering from the sidelines, Sophie Cunningham cracking jokes to lighten the mood, or Kelsey Mitchell stepping up as the offensive anchor, this team has embraced the chaos and turned it into fuel. And here's where the league comes into focus. The WNBA is growing fast. Bigger audiences, brighter lights, more pressure. With that growth comes a responsibility. The product has to be protected. Fans shouldn't walk away from a playoff game talking more about referees than players. If the Fever were robbed, then it's not just an Indiana problem, it's a league problem. Because what fans saw in Game 1 was a potential classic ruined by officiating inconsistency. But here's the wildest part. Even through the pain, the Fever's story is inspiring. 6 players down, calls going against them, and yet they kept swinging. They fought from tip-off to buzzer, proving once again that Indiana's spirit is unbreakable. That's what the fans are latching onto. Not just the outrage, but the resilience. So maybe the real question isn't whether the Fever were robbed. Maybe it's this. How much stronger will they come back because of it? Every great franchise in sports has its us-against-the-world moment. For Indiana, this might just be it. This is the Basketball Unplugged, and we'll be here every step of the way as this story unfolds. Was this the turning point that lights a fire under the Fever, or just another chapter in a season defined by obstacles? Let us know what you think, because one thing's for sure. Indiana isn't done yet. The Fever can't change the injuries. They can't erase the whistles from Game 1. But what they can do is regroup, refocus, and come back swinging in Game 2. That's the mindset Stephanie White has preached all year long. Control what you can control. So what does that actually look like? First, Kelsey Mitchell has to stay aggressive. She showed early in Game 1 that she can set the tone by attacking downhill and forcing Atlanta's defense to collapse. The Fever can't afford to let the Dream dictate pace. Mitchell needs the ball in her hands, hunting mismatches and creating space for shooters. Second, Aaliyah Boston. She's the anchor. Atlanta got away with a lot of physicality, but Boston still managed to make her presence felt on the glass. Expect the Fever to keep feeding her touches inside, forcing the Dream to either double and open up perimeter looks or let Boston go to work one-on-one. And here's the X factor: role players. With half the roster sidelined, players like Lexi Hull, Nalissa Smith, and Christy Wallace don't just need to survive, they need to impact. Whether it's hitting corner threes, making hustle plays, or just staying locked in defensively, Indiana's margin for error is razor thin. Every contribution matters. But perhaps the biggest adjustment isn't tactical at all, it's emotional. The Fever can't let officiating dictate their energy. They've already proven they can hang with a full-strength Dream team. If they walk into Game 2 with the same fire but more composure when calls go against them, they give themselves a shot.